Today's album on the table is The Wall. Pink Floyd.
What was it?
The Wall!
Okay. I couldn't quite hear you there for a second. I'm kidding.
I know, you can see the album.
Yeah, it's like sitting right in front of me like I need to hear you or anything. Oh my god. Like two of the greatest guitar solos of all time on this particular album, personally. From one of the greatest guitar players of all time in David Gilmour.
So, I generally like double albums. Yeah, I know. It's weird. But it's kind of like sitting down and watching a movie. You know?
Yeah,
it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending upon. And it's just... I like it.
Yeah, I mean, this is... You hear it on classic rock radio all the time. You get Another Brick in the Wall. You get Comfortably Numb. And you sometimes even get Run Like Hell. So in a weird way, like, I had always gotten bits and pieces of this album. But this is another one of those albums that when you listen to it all the way through and you understand the context, that's where you really get the full effect.
I don't even think you need to understand the context of the storyline of whatever Pink Floyd was going for. I feel like the songs are widely applicable, that you could kind of fit them into your life in many ways, you know? My favorite thing about the album as a whole is how there's 3 Another Brick in the Wall versions. I actually love that because to me that's a very...
It's a very classical kind of
music theater kind of thing where you bring back themes and stick them back in. Oh, we're going to put it back in now. And here it comes one more time. I really love that because it kind of glues everything together. But it's always changing slightly.
Yeah.
I think we should do a version of that sometime.
What, all 3 parts?
Yeah, and somehow amalgam them into one. Who wants to hear us do Another Brick in the Wall?
Can we do Comfortably Numb? I can play that. My God. The only thing that would have been better seeing that show live would have been if David Gilmour had played that guitar solo. But I can appreciate the guy who was playing, Dave Kilminster, who is an equally as great guitar player, playing that solo because he did a phenomenal job. But for me, like, Comfortably Numb has like just alone has 2 of the best guitar solos I've ever heard in my entire life on it.
Absolutely. You put that ending solo, you just put that on loop. You could just loop it.
Keep going.
Forever. It's like your own personal soundtrack. You're walking in anywhere. You just hear the Comfortably Numb and solo. I really want that to be my ringtone. I just have never got around to actually shortening it to the right amount of time.
I think the most surprising song for me that when I finally, after years of hearing just the pieces of it and listening to the album as a whole, the song that for some reason stuck with me so much was Mother. And I don't really know if there's some kind of underlying back of my mind kind of reason why. I just think that to me that song, since it was Roger Waters who wrote the majority of this, Mother seems to me like the most intensely personal of the first half of the album. Because I feel like when you listen to what Roger Waters will talk about when he talks about making the Wall and his general inspirations, there's a lot of reference to not having a father figure, because his father died before he was born. He was a pilot in the war. So in Mother, you get a lot of his descriptions about his overprotected child rearing and how he was almost always told he don't do this, don't do that, because his mother just wanted him to be so close to her because they had lost his father. So it's like, mama's gonna wait up until you get in. Mama's not gonna let anybody get dirty with you. You know, just all these things. It's like, to
Dirty
me,
get through. That's the
that
lyric.
dirty get through. See, like accents, man. But it's like, to me, that song feels so intensely personal, and it's like, it just kind of hits you when you realize it, and kind of in the guise of him, because Roger Waters has a very distinct voice. So sometimes when he sings something, you don't quite get the personal nature of it because of the accent. You kind of, for us Americans, the English accent kind of makes us laugh sometimes because we don't have that accent so much in our version of English. But it's also, you get to a point where you need to listen to it a couple times to understand really what's being said and the story behind it. And when you finally get it, you realize, wow, that's kind of sad. So
I've never felt that way about that song, but okay.
You're welcome.
I feel like out of the first half of the song that really sticks out to me as being applicable still now is Goodbye Blue Sky.
Oh, yeah.
The earth is still getting more and more polluted. Global warming, all that junk. It's like, so many times you just are driving into the city and you just see
The haze.
And you're like, where is that blue sky?
Mm-hmm.
I want that blue sky back. And it's gray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, with the second half, there's two particular songs that we always kind of wish were longer. I know one you think is Vera.
Vera, I want to write an ending to that. I always feel like Vera is unfinished.
Mm-hmm.
I've never sat down and gotten around to writing more of Vera, and I don't even know where it would go.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, Vera, what has become of you?
Does anybody else in here feel the way I
do?
And yeah.
I want to know more.
Yeah. Well, and then like after that, you have Bring the Boys Back Home, and that's like, bring the boys back home, bring the boys back home. Don't tell me there's no hope at all. Bring the boys back home. And it's like,
wait, it says don't tell me there's no hope at all and bring the boys back home?
I think so.
I know that's in Hey You.
It sounds like that's in there. Yeah.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah. It's like Bring the Boys Back Home 3 or 4 times, and that's the song. And you're kind of like, that's the song that makes me want to watch the film, to see like, is there a film context that I could understand that in? Because that leads right into Comfortably Numb.
True.
So, this was written as a very, very much like a rock opera, so to speak.
A rock.
Just a rock opera.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to combine it.
Don't try to combine here. It's not going to work. So, yeah.
Okay, so... Oh, no, it's don't leave the children on their own. But you brought up the line from Hey You.
Diction, please.
Which is my favorite song in this album, is Hey You.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And when it's don't tell me there's no hope at all, you just feel that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is always hope.
Okay, this is kind of taking me out of the conversation. Recorded at Super Bear Studios.
Super Bear.
Like that, rundown or arcade that we would always pass by in Big Bear. Oh my god. Oh, yeah. But the only reason because so many times people will debate like, oh, is there Dark Side of the Moon better or is The Wall better? And so many people will gravitate towards Dark Side of the Moon. And
to me, this is the one that draws me in.
Yeah. I think the only reason that people will probably pick Dark Side of the Moon over this is probably because Dark Side of the Moon had more hits.
That's not a double album, right?
No, and it's a single album, too.
See, like I said, I like double albums.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it is a movie in its own way, you know?
Yeah.
It's like how I prefer watching movies versus TV shows. The TV shows are just too short. You need something longer. Mm-hmm. Because why I think I generally gravitate more towards double albums is because it's more like how you would experience it in a concert. You know, when there's just 10 songs or less on an album, you never just go to a whole concert that's just 10 songs. Mm-hmm. You know, a set may be 10 songs, but there are probably other bands. If you go the whole night, there's 35 songs played, you know? So with this, we have 26 songs.
Yeah.
That feels like a concert.
Yeah. And it was a concert.
And it was
badass. So, I mean, I guess the live impact also impacts how I feel about this album as well. Because it just, 30, 40 years later, it holds up. And it still feels, like, fresh.
I mean, like, when you were saying about Dark Side of the Moon, more hits, like, how many hits would you consider?
Oh, I'm not counting. You know I don't care about hits.
I don't either. I was just curious in what you're talking about, you know? Because, like, to me, I don't care about the hits, but I definitely have at least 6 songs on here that I'm like, yeah, that song. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. So, yeah. The Wall.
Pink Floyd.
Check it out. Listen.
What do you guys think about The Wall? Tell us.